So let's dive into the fit and finish and the overall ergonomics of each IEM. So first up, let's do the IE800s. Now, these are constructed of a ceramic housing that has a special coating on there to allow it to be very scratch resistant and, as you can see, shiny. Very nice design. These are the smallest of the three. It houses a 7mm XWB dynamic driver. It has two little ports on the back, which are called Helmholtz resonators. So they kind of equalize the pressure in the air and allow the speaker to kind of breathe to give it a sort of like an open back experience in a sense. And the wires do not remove at the the air house or the airpiece housing, sorry. It is Kevlar reinforced, as you can see by the green. So it's pretty durable. It attaches at the Y split here, which is a termination of a 2.5mm jack at the earpiece side. I don't really like this design because you really never know. Something can happen up here and the earpieces are useless and you have to send them off to Sennheiser to get them serviced. So I prefer the detachments of most IEMs nowadays where it detaches from the earpiece housing. Um, Another thing is this cable is incredibly short. It's it's annoying because I'm about 6 feet or 6 feet one, and it's so many times when I can't even use this out of my pocket. I have to put it into my jacket pocket so it can get closer to my ears because if I put it in my pants pocket, it'll tug on it. And being that these are, worn down from your ears as traditional earbuds, they fly right out of my ears. As soon as if it's a strong enough tug, these are gonna go flying straight out of your ears. And you don't want $800 IEMs flying out of your ears. It's just not a pleasant experience. So I really hate how short this cable is. The termination is pretty nice. It's a 3.5mm right angle jack. In terms of the durability, I mean, it's durable. It feels rugged. I don't think this thing can snap, even though it appears weak in terms of its, the thickness of the cable. It's a durable cable. It feels durable, you know. But I just don't like the length of it. I don't like the fact that these have to be worn down. I've tried wearing them over my ears and it does improve, but when that happens is you reduce the amount of accessible wiring as it goes over your ear, and that means there's less length towards the source, so it's even shorter. So it's like it's you take one step forward and then two steps back. So all in all, I really do not like the ergonomics of the IE800s. Comfort wise, these are stellar. Like you just pop them in, they're lightweight, and you go about listening to music. So I would say comfort wise, these are probably the best of the three. But fit wise and overall ergonomics, these are the worst. So next up we have the KSE1500. Now, these are $3,000. I can't stress that enough. This is incredibly expensive. But the cables do not detach from the housing. It's permanently fixed to the housing. Now, because of the driver technology, I kind of understand why. Because also the earpiece housing is plastic. It's a plastic nozzle as well. These tips are the worst to remove. So I'm not even gonna be able to remove them on camera. I have to throw these things in the freezer to get these tips off. It's ridiculous, sure. Like why? But back to the earpieces. The housing is plastic. The wire is permanently fixtured to the housing. The cable, however, is incredibly robust. You can see by the thickness. This is like a very heavy duty cable. Very, 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 look at that. It's a very durable Y split and it's braided here in which you can feel that the cable splits to kind of help the crosstalk. And then it terminates into a LEMO connector, which is unique. I've never seen this before. But that makes it proprietary to its amplifier, which is over here. in which it then connects straight into this little jack here. Let me show you. Boom, just like that. So you cannot plug this into your iPhone and go about your business. You need this amplifier with you at all times, and that is annoying. If you're someone who's used to just having your player and your IEMs, you have to carry around this, which kind of transports your rig into somewhat of a transportable size occurrence. So this is kind of hard to take out. All right, there we go. So now, as you can see, the build quality of the KSE1500s is absolutely superb. It's immaculate. The build decisions, in terms of the permanently fixed cable, meanwhile the SE846 over here has a removable cable at the earpiece housing. This does not, and I would go as far as to say the reason being is because these use electrostatic speakers, which is very untraditional for this form factor, and pretty much the first of its kind for its form factor if you want to go even more in depth of it being an isolating based earphone. Now, electrostatic speakers require very high voltages to be driven and to create sound. And the operating voltage, as Shure claims for this specific model, is about 200 volts at roughly at or less than 1 milliamp. So the current is not enough to really do any harm to you, but the voltage is pretty high. And I don't think Shure wanted any metal pieces on this earpiece for that reason. And I don't think they wanted to have a removable cable for that reason as well, because they didn't want you to swap the cables out and then have you try to plug this into your phone and then you just destroy everything. So I kind of see why they went with that design choice, because they wanted you to really use the amplifier that came with that. So if the cables are removable, you could have easily just popped the cables out, made a third-party cable, and then try to plug it into another electrostatic amplifier, or I don't know why, but try to plug it into your phone and see what you can do with that, and then cause a nuclear reaction or something. So Shure was just like, you know what, let's design it where you're pretty much stuck with this cable, you're stuck with this connector, you have to use an amplifier, or I'm not sure if any companies are going to make an amplifier that has this connector, but you're stuck with this connector. So that was a smart design choice on Shure's behalf. And no metal enclosures that can give you a nasty shock in case something malfunctions in here. But yeah, so comfort-wise, typical of Shure, these are very good comfort. Eventually, for me, the memory wire does irritate the top of my ears because they're very stiff. Along with the weight of the IEMs is constantly pressing down on the ear. It does hurt the top of my ears after about an hour or two, but it's not that bad. I can still deal with it. The ear tips here, the foam, I freaking love these foam tips so much. They block out so much noise, like so much noise that it even surpasses my king of noise blockage, which is these Bose QC25s over here. Surpasses that. I am astonished. And it has even better sonic fidelity than that. So you get better noise cancellation than pretty much the best noise canceling headphone on the market, and you get even better sound quality. So it's a win-win. Next up, we have the Shure SE846. This is the bronze color, which is like a nice little shiny, look kind of goldish. This is the same color that I had on my original SC530 and the 535. It also comes in a blue, a black, and a clear. I really like the clear as well, since it showcases all the little goodies inside, but I don't like that wire. I don't like the clear wiring, so I just went with these because I prefer black wiring. And pretty much the majority of the ergonomics are very similar to the KSE1500. They have the same around ear fit, which does cause the same kind of discomfort after about 1 to 2 hours. The isolation is about the same between the two. They use the same foam tips. The cable, however, is detachable at the earpiece. It pulls off right here from the earpiece, so in case anything goes wrong, you still have your earpieces, and you could just throw on another cable. The overall durability or perceived durability of the cable isn't as, quite robust as the KSE1500s. As you can see here, the Y split differences. You can see the thickness of the cables, the differences in that. I mean, the SE846 cable is still pretty durable to me, but the KSE1500 cable is like a power line in comparison. So this cable I love this cable. It's nice and long. It's very durable. Terminates into a right-angled 3.5 millimeter jack with a nice little, like this little piece right here that allows you to fit it into some cases in case it protrudes out and doesn't allow most fat jacks to get into. So all in all, I really can't complain about the ergonomics and the fit of this. It's a very well thought out design. I mean, Shure has been in the IEM business for a very long time, so they've pretty much mastered, the design of an IEM. So let's do a quick rundown of how the KSE1500's system works. So right here I have my iPhone 6s Plus, which is connected to the proprietary amplifier via a Lightning to micro USB cable, which is a digital out, which then feeds the digital to analog converter, or DAC, inside of this, which then converts that to an analog signal, which is then amplified by the amplifier inside of here, and then fed to the KSE1500 IEMs. So as soon as you basically plug this in, and let me show you an example. Let me get some music playing from Spotify or something. Alright, so let's see. Let's play a song here. Actually, let's not play a song because I don't want to have a copyright strike. Alright, so this is playing. So as soon as I turn this on, by hitting the power button on the top left, this will then power on over here. And now the music will begin playing from the IEMs. Just like that, very simple, nothing too hectic. Very simple connection, and then you basically just, I guess you mount it like that. Now this is where it kind of annoys me. As you can see, this is not a pretty solution here. This is very cumbersome. This is transportable basically. It's not really a portable solution, but hey, you need to power those IEMs somehow. They use a very special driver technology, so that's kind of very much necessary. So you can still use your phone as normal, make phone calls and stuff, but all of the audio will transport into this and then to your IEMs. Now, the function of this amplifier, let me showcase that. So let me unplug this for you guys. Bring this closer. Alright, so you have your left and right channels, which goes up and down depending on the input signal when you're playing music, so it's always on when you're playing music. You have your digital volume control here, so you can kind of see the value going down over here as you move it. This is also going to be used for the controls I'm going to show you, and then it has your current EQ setting. So on the bottom you have basically your input for your digital out, and then you have the switch to switch between the digital out from your source, or you can switch to an analog input. So if you switch it to line, basically you would plug the analog in over here, and then this kind of changes over here and basically says EQ bypass. So EQ bypass is to basically just get a pure analog signal. If you use an EQ, what happens is it transports the incoming analog signal into a digital signal, in which it's then equalized and then reconverted back to an analog signal. So there's a lot of stages going on here. It is gonna be detrimental to the sound quality, so I really don't recommend using an EQ unless you're using the digital input. Other than that, up here you have the power button. On the left you have, actually it's not the power button, sorry, the power LED notification. And on the the left you have your power button and then the hold switch, so none of the buttons are activated unless the switch is deactivated. So let's show you how the actual user interface works. So when you double tap the volume, it goes into the actual menu in which you have the equalizer. You can do bypass, you can do a low boost, which is to boost the bass frequencies. You can do a vocal boost. You can do a loudness contour, which basically boosts the treble and bass. This is good like if you listen at low volumes, makes it sound more neutral. Going down, you have the DS, which is to kind of reduce sibilance in the vocals. You have user defined, so you can actually predefine settings. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 different defined settings that you can save, in which when you click either one, you can go to apply or edit. If you already had one saved, you just apply it. But edit if you want to create one. You have a very nice parametric equalizer. So the way this works is you have 4 different points in the frequency response in which you can tailor any frequency. So I have one point at 50 hertz, and if I click that, I can basically move it down to whatever given hertz I want. And if I click it again, I can basically change how much of a volume intensity in terms of raising that frequency or reducing that frequency. And then the next step over here, I'm trying to figure out how do I get back to that. So if you click that, interesting, I don't remember how to get there. But the last step is to essentially change how wide of an effect that specific boost has. So if for example, if you was to boost the 50 hertz region, you can make it where if you want it to be a very specific point in 50 hertz that you want to be boosted, or do you want that 50 hertz to be a very wide boost? So that means it also affects the 60 hertz, the 70 hertz, the 80 hertz, or the 40 hertz, the 30 hertz, and the 20 hertz region, because it's a very like a wide slope boost. Or do you want it to be a very sharp boost only at the 50 hertz? If you guys can understand what I'm trying to say. To go back now, you use the power button. And I don't want to save that, so let's hit don't save. And let's go back again, and then you have the audio. This is to adjust the limiter. So this is very sensitive to the input source, especially on an analog source. So you're gonna want to use this if you're plugging this up to another DAC. You're gonna want to set it to at least you can put it on, or I personally leave limiter on. So sorry, it's not even that. It's the input pad. Sorry. Set that to -10 dB if you're going to use this with another DAC. For some reason, this is very sensitive, and what happens is the sound distorts as soon as you try to raise the volume up because it's basically clipping. At first, I thought my IEMs were defective, and I was just freaking out, but it's because this is a very sensitive amplifier in terms of the input stage. So thankfully, Shure included that to do -10 or -20. For me, the limiter was like, it was more of an automated thing where it controlled the music on an automatic level, meaning that it kind of made the dynamic range very linear, which kind of destroyed the music for me. So you know how you have very loud parts in the music in contrast with very quiet parts? Everything sounded like they reached the same cap in terms of loudness. So I don't really know how to explain that, but that's what the limiter sounded to me. So I didn't really ever use that. Moving over to the utilities. You have the display settings. You can change the brightness. You can change when the screen turns off on its own when you're not using the actual amplifier. You can change the language. You can flip the screen orientation. You can change the knob direction. So if you turn it a certain way, in which direction it's going to scroll through the menu. And that's about that. So let's go back. So you have the battery info, which is pretty nice. It tells you the current charge and percentage. It tells you the amount of times that you've charged it. So I've charged it twice fully because I usually always charge my batteries up even though they're not even dead. So a cycle count will be essentially when the battery reaches, I believe, below 10%. and then you fully charge it back up to 100%. And then it tells you the temperature. So right now it's at normal. So this is pretty cool that it tells you all of that. Factory reset, which is self-explanatory. I'm not going to be doing that. It tells you the current firmware, and you can also trigger a firmware update. Then you have the hardware, which tells you the serial number, and there's a 4 at the end. I'm not sure what that 4 means by the hardware though. So moving over to the bottom now, we have disable charging. So in case you don't want to, for example, run down the battery on your laptop. So if you plug this into your laptop, it will begin to charge the amplifier. And you know, laptops also have their own battery. So if you don't want to be killing the battery of your laptop, you can disable the charging so that it doesn't pull any power and only pulls data from the laptop. When you plug it into your phone, however, such as your iOS device or an Android device, it will not charge, period. So you don't have to really worry about that. So we're back to the menu, and that's pretty much that. It's a very simple, intuitive experience here. I like that. It's simple. It's not too crazy or haywire. It's a very simple experience.